Welcome to the Week 14 wrap-up show, the morning games here on the Mayo Media Network. I'm Smitty from the Fantasy Football Show. You can always find me at smitty1.com, which is my quick link to my YouTube show. Join me, subscribe, follow. I'm live all the time, every other day at least, and I produce pretty much a video a day on YouTube, but you can also find me here every Sunday on the Mayo Media Network. So, breaking news, this happened right before the Raiders game kicked off. It's obviously kicked off already. Jacobs is playing, but Jacobs trolling everybody on Instagram saying that he's not playing and caused a bunch of chaos. The problem here is if you zoom in to the very, very fine print, but in very, very, very small print, let me put this on screen here. Jacobs gives everybody the bird. So at the bottom of this, a lot of hot fantasy owners, there's this little tiny print, so you can't even see it. But if you zoom in, super blurry, oh well, bird, yo fantasy. He's basically saying, bleep your fantasy. And I don't know about you, but that rubs me the wrong way. And I know what you're saying. About half of you are going to go, Smitty, no one cares about you, your fantasy. No one cares about us. These players have bigger problems on their hands. No, they don't. They do this for a living. The fans come with the job. Catering to your fans is part of what you do. Your jersey sales, your popularity gets you a bigger contract. Like, what's wrong with people going to the defense of a player who's gonna not only troll during week 14, not appreciate half of their fan base at least plays fantasy football? You don't have a clue what it is you do for a living because you impact everything around you. Your fans, especially fantasy football fans, are part of what makes you who you are. Yeah, your talent got you there, NFL player, but if you don't respect your fans, and don't tell me, oh, Smitty, if a guy's going to say he's hurt and not play last minute, his health comes first. That you're not even arguing the same point. He basically flips off fantasy football, trolls people into thinking he's not playing, and because, we broke this live, you knew that he was probably going to play because he was warming up when I broke this story live on my YouTube channel. It's still madness for him to play around with his fan base. How is this going to help his career, his next contract, his jersey sales, his marketing? Give me a break, Jacobs. Way to go, bro. Let's get into some of the players in the morning games that did well and maybe didn't do as well. 67 yards in week 14 for James Robinson. We wanted a whole lot more out of him. It's going to be interesting how his play here in the final weeks impacts his fantasy value in 2021, because he could very well be a first round pick or a late second or even a top of the third, depending on how he finishes. If he finishes like this, fantasy owners might avoid him earlier on than they probably would have if he has, like, let's say in week 15 and week 16, he has two back-to-back 100-yard games and a touchdown. He'll be a top 15 pick overall, locked and loaded, maybe top 12. If he kind of busts on out, having 60 and 50-yard games, then he could fall all the way to the top of the round. That's how fantasy football works. And that should indicate that he is probably overvalued if he does finish strong and finish in the top 12, that he has that much fluctuation in ADP, most likely. Who scored a touchdown over here? Ruggs touchdown. You'll find more about that from the Pat Mayo show. Mayo Media Network's going to cover the afternoon games and all the ad drops and stuff like that. I'll touch on some of it here. A.J. Brown, beast, 7 of 9, 112 yards and a touchdown. I feel like they need to use him more all game. He does all this damage in a short period of time. He got banged up, very scary. It looked like he got hurt pretty bad. Shook it off, came back in, but what an amazing one-handed touchdown catch. A.J. Brown's a top 5 to 7 wide receiver in 2021, and definitely a top 7 wide receiver moving forward. Zeke Elliott, 12 carries for 48 yards, continues to bust on fantasy owners in 2020. I expect that to continue. The offense is not dynamic enough to get him room to run on a regular basis. Even if he finishes with one big game out of the next 3 in weeks 15, 16, and 17, you're going to be staring at some pretty darn good draft value, I think, in 2021 drafts. I don't think any teams are going to offer Dak a big contract, so he's going to be stuck in Dallas, which is good news for Zeke Elliott, good news for Cowboys fans, because it's a good marriage that needs to be forced together, and Zeke's going to benefit. And anybody that drafts Zeke at the 6 to 10 overall range in 2021, which I predict his ADP could plummet to like 7, 8, 9, 10. People are going to get crazy and have these huge knee-jerk reactions to his finish, but don't buy into it. He's still going to eat for 2 to 3 years at a top 5 running back level. I'm all in at 6 to 10 overall value in 2021. He might even fall into the second round. Who knows how far he falls. Derrick Henry, 215 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in week 14 in the win over the Jaguars. This dude is going to walk into 2021 as a top 3-4 overall pick if he keeps playing like this. We knew he was going to have the best finish to all the running backs, maybe outside of Cook. But Cook and Henry, neck and neck for the 1.1 if you were drafting today in a weeks 14 through 17 only league. This guy's going to be so good with his playoff schedule. Get ready for more. Next up, DeAndre Hopkins. Wish he got more touchdown looks. 9 of 11 for 136. Still a good day. Kind of undervalued in Dynasty and in 2021 early mock drafts we've mock drafted, and people have really disrespected him, saying he's not a top 5 overall wide receiver, and he may not be, but I think that when you buy him outside of that value, it protects you into what I think is pretty safe value for Hopkins, and he still has the upside to be a 1 to 5 wide receiver in 2021. Mike Davis stepping up pretty big, even though they didn't give him the volume. 11 carries is not enough work, but the dude was efficient. 51 yards on the ground, 2 TDs, catching 5 of 6 passes for 42 yards. That's almost a 100-yard total day with 5 PPR reception points and 2 TDs, filling in nicely. And there's some talk that McCaffrey may not be back next week. I think he gets shut down for the year. So if you own Mike Davis, keep running him out there as much as you can. Here we go, Kyler Murray, 24-35, 244, and a touchdown in the Cardinals' Week 14 win against the Giants. He still carried the ball 13 times for 47 yards, so a pretty decent day for him. He's a little bit worrisome at times, but he's still top 5 heading into the remaining weeks in top 5. Top 3 to 4 easy for the future. He was very, very much everyone's top 2 to 3 overall in the beginning part of the year. We've seen Kyler drop into everybody's 4 or 5 range, and rightly so. Like, I understand why you might, and he's a running quarterback that could lead to injury. So in Dynasty, there's reasons to like guys like Herbert and Josh Allen more, and of course Mahomes. But you can still make a case for Kyler being the number 2 overall quarterback in 2021. It's really a deep position in terms of top 5 potential talent at quarterback for 2021 and beyond. So it's going to be an exciting offseason, to say the least, when it comes to ranking quarterbacks. David Montgomery needs more carries, but we know that that's the way they roll it in Chicago, and I don't think it's going to change. Like, David Montgomery was efficient. He had a breakaway touchdown run, 11 times for 113, 1 TD. You're going to get that kind of efficiency once in a while, and then when he's not efficient, he's not going to do well. Nobody get too excited. 11 carries. That's the way they run this guy. It's pitiful, but he delivered today, and he won people some weeks maybe. Allen Robinson, 9 of 13 for 123 and a touchdown, continues to deliver, and probably one of the most disrespected wide receivers in fantasy each and every week, not to mention each and every year. He continues to do it. AJ Green had a decent day here, 62 yards and a touchdown, but move on. Nothing to see here. He's not going to repeat that on a consistent basis. AJ Green is done as a fantasy relevant guy. KJ Hamler is good. Let me tell you, he is good. The problem is there are other wide receivers on this roster. So if you're thinking 2021, 86 yards and 2 touchdowns, he has potential, but Sutton's coming back next year. Judy's going to develop. Locke played good. Let's just say that. Locke played really good, but I don't see him as a long-term answer personally. And even if he is, there's still a lot of mouths to feed for Hamler to be great. But in Dynasty, if he's available for whatever reason, scoop him up, hold him. He does have a whole lot of talent, and you never know what could happen to players ahead of him. And he's worth grabbing, stashing, holding. Cook, 22 totes for 102 and a touchdown, catching 2 of 4 targets for 8 yards. Of course we want more out of Cook. We're expecting 2 TDs. We're expecting 140 total yards, but still a good day at the office. and this is why he's number 2 overall, maybe behind Henry and only Henry moving forward for weeks 15, 16, and 17. And I hope you don't play week 17. If you do, put a vote out to abolish that in your league, because that's ridiculous. And then I'll leave you with this final note on Tua. Tua had himself a day, 28 of 48, 316, 2 TDs, 1 TD on the ground. Very, very good fantasy day. I'm not sure what to make of Tua yet. I still feel like I can't envision him being a long-term elite quarterback at the NFL level. He could prove me wrong. I know a lot of people like him. I like Miami. Miami's kind of a sleeper for 2021, but that doesn't mean I believe in Tua to the tune of a top 5 to 6 fantasy QB. I think he could manage the game well. I think he could be relevant for 2 or 3 years, but I don't see him in like 5-6 years being an elite quarterback still. Prove me wrong, Tua. Thanks for watching. You can find me at smitty1.com. Anytime you want to find me on YouTube, I go live all the time. Sleeperu.com is my rankings, my bold predictions, all that. And of course, you can dial me up at heysmitty.com. And I'll call you, and we can talk fantasy football. Order a call right now. Watch Pat Mayo later. The Mayo Media Network will take care of you for the afternoon slate of games and all the waiver wire and all that. And again, find me at smitty1.com.
Out of here.
You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.